Welcome to Garage Sales Unhinged.
where the characters are as quirky as the finds.
I'm Julie.
And I'm Jake.
Join us as we dive into the wild world of garage sales, yard sales, estate sales, and anywhere secondhand sales are happening.
From bizarre bargains to hilarious haggles.
You won't believe the stories we've got lined up.
Let's get unhinged.
Welcome to Garage Sales Unhinged, the podcast where we talk about the secondhand sales. Marbles in my mouth. Secondhand sales market, and we usually tell horrible stories about our childhood. So,
At some point, we're going to run out of childhood. Yeah, at some point, we're going to tell all the stories there are to tell, and there'll still be garage sales. So what then?
I think we can start telling stories about other people's childhoods.
That sounds good.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't really shared a lot about Richie's childhood, our oldest brother.
Yeah, we should just make this about dragging him. You're right.
I mean, we do drag our parents every once in a while.
Yeah.
But we also, I mean, comparatively, we have a pretty large family. Our dad is one of 9 children, and our mom is one of 5 children. And then we have a bunch of, we have aunts and uncles. They have children. We have all these cousins. We got some dirt on people. I'm sure we do.
I'm sure we do.
That's not what we're talking about today.
What
How
are we
you
talking
do-
about?
Oh, some stuff. This is the political episode. How you doing, Jake?
Oh, I'm doing okay. Honestly, well, we've never really discussed. But do we really get political on this podcast? Do we not? Do we go there? Do we not? It's so easy to, but like that market is saturated. I'm anxious now.
I said political, and Jacob's eyes lit up and his eyebrows raised like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
So we're not going to, spoiler alert, we're not really getting into politics. But I did see an article about something about the federal budget. And we're going to talk about that today. So are you prepared for that?
Wow, that sounds riveting, Julie.
Okay, I want to describe to everyone what I just saw. My brother's eyes rolled into the back of his head.
Well, I read a news. I think that's what you said. You read a news about federal budget. It's like fantastic, great.
I
I'm here
read an
for it.
article about it.
Okay, same
So
thing.
the reason that this article is from the CATO Institute. The title of this article, which is what caught my attention, to close the budget deficit, Uncle Sam should have a garage sale. You see how I brought that back?
Uncle Sam should have a garage sale. So, like offloading some stuff to help balance the books or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, wouldn't you think so? Apparently we have a budget crisis in the United States that we borrow way too much money. We can't pay it off. We have a lot of programs that are outdated. We need to be able to pay for things as a federal government. And the federal government has a lot of assets that people would want to purchase. And the thing that is in this article that I'm going to talk about, because I mentioned a couple things that Uncle Sam could get rid of, but the thing that I want us to focus on is reducing federal land ownership.
I've heard some stuff about this.
No, you didn't. I'm bringing this into you brand new.
Yeah, I think what I heard was like very a bit of just a portion of that whole dialogue. So it's certainly not the whole thing. So I'm interested to hear what all you got on it.
So before we get hate mail, I'm going to say this is not a proponent of reducing our national parks. I'm not trying to get rid of, the land that we need to keep our country vibrant and going and all that stuff. The federal government based off this article, owns roughly 640 million acres, which is about 28% of the land in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that does include our national parks and military bases, stuff like that. The Bureau of Land Management, which is a Department of the Interior, they manage about 245 million acres. That is not the national parks or the military bases. Do you know how much, like, the size of 245 million acres is?
No, it's like I want to say like 2.5 Costco's.
Yes, Jacob, very close.
240 million acres. I'm really not clear. I've never been clear on how many acres are in a mile, so not really. Help me
Okay.
out.
So you and I live in the state of Texas.
Right.
The state of Texas is almost 172 million acres.
Oh wow. Okay.
And so they're overseeing 245 million acres that, again, is not national parks, not military bases.
So it's like a Texas and a half or something.
Yeah. So what this article is saying is, why don't we sell off some of that land that the Bureau of Land Management is overseeing, but it's not necessarily needed to run our country? And as I was going, that's such an interesting concept for people that can, and ideally, that land would be sold to American citizens. It would be given back to Native Americans. I think there's things that we can do with that, but it's like, okay, so again, if I'm a developer and I want to buy some land and then put housing on it that goes to our housing crisis, there's things that people can do with that. Now, it's not just the sale of the land, but it's one, like if you sold the land, what they say, the estimated value of government-owned land is about $1.8 trillion. That doesn't really put a huge dent in our budget deficit. However, it does take some stuff off the books because whenever you have land, you do have to manage it. If there's like if you have to clean it up, if you're going to develop it, like that costs money. All of that costs money. But if you were to sell it, then other people start to pay taxes on it. They get to develop it and start contributing jobs and money to our economy and all that stuff. I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And then I found another news article recently that said, now this is just a fraction of that 245 million acres. But this came out March 20th. That in Nevada sold, not Nevada, but the federal government sold 42 acres of land near Las Vegas for $16.6 million. And I did the math for everyone. That's just over $300,000 per acre.
Yep.
And it got sold to 3 different entities. One of them is a housing developer. That company, hi, I'm Julie. I have an MBA because I went through and read their financial statements. And who says I don't do research for this podcast? That housing developer is I think it's $1.6 billion company, billion with the B. And so likely they're going to develop that land, put houses on it, be able to turn around, sell those houses. They do a lot of 55 and older communities and stuff like that. The other group that bought a section of land, it's called Elite Excavating. So it's a construction company. Again, they are likely going to develop that land, resell it, or they're going to be able to put commercial property on there and then rent that out to companies that need commercial property. The third one is called, I might be mispronouncing this, Heikel Exemption Trust. Heikel Exemption Trust is actually owned by a doctor in the Las Vegas area. Dr. Heikel is a gastroenterologist.
Gastroenterologist.
Yes.
Yeah.
And his trust bought another section of that land deal. So ideally, all 3 of those entities will be developing that land and making money off of it, hopefully putting jobs into the marketplace, but also bringing in some other things to the Nevada area. But again, it goes to, okay, here's the other thing, because they broke out where that money goes to. So they just spent $16.6 million for this land. And 85% of the funds will go to projects throughout Nevada, such as parks, landscape restoration, capital improvements on federal lands. Great. Sounds wonderful. And I think that's where the Cato Institute article comes in of like, hey, if you can sell this, then that money goes back into, like, I'm a big, huge fan of our national parks. And if it goes into keeping our national parks running and clean and maintained, then let's put money back into that. 5% will go to the state of Nevada for education. And I'm going to do the math for everyone. That's just $800,000.
Yikes.
Yeah. And then 10% will go to the Southern Nevada Water Authority. So about $1.6 million will go to that. And I'm going, it's probably going to be needed, especially if you're bringing in development to
Right.
an arid area. You have to supply water to them in order for companies and people to thrive.
Are you planning a garage sale, yard sale, or estate sale and need some help? Look no further than Garage Sale Supply. They provide top-notch resources and expert advice to help you host the perfect sale. From pricing tips to promotional strategies, they've got you covered. Visit garagesalesupply.com and make your next sale a success.
So I thought it was an interesting concept of, does the federal government have a garage sale? Now, granted, if they have a garage sale, not everyone has millions of dollars to spend on acreage. But then then my mind goes, would they take Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Not everyone has Bitcoin, but, is this a way to offset some assets that the general public are not using and it's actually costing taxpayer dollars just to have them on the books? And is there a better use of them if you were to sell it to privatized groups or citizens and then they turn it into something else?
I'm trying to think of how well the metaphor holds up. Like everything being described here is tantamount to Uncle Sam's garage sale. And to me, the metaphor is saying, hey, the idea of garage sale is that you've got this stuff that's just sitting around and it's not doing anything for you. You've got monetizable things and they're not providing value for you if you just hang on to them. You're not doing anything with them. They're just taking up space and it's actually costing you money to have this thing around, have a garage sale, and actually get the value from it. I wonder, I mean, like you said, like some federal lands, I mean, honestly, I don't know how to feel about it because I don't know what those lands are used for or what they're like or what it's about. I have no idea who's in the market for this stuff or what it would be turned into or used for or whether it's a fair market value. But really more along the lines of the metaphor. I think for a lot of people, the idea of federal lands, the thing that comes to mind is, yeah, national parks. And the idea of carving up any of that stuff and selling it. I mean, this could be a golf course. Why is it not a golf course? It could be a golf, like that doesn't sit well with anybody, any real person. But that's what I'm trying to figure out how well the metaphor holds up in that it's tough because when you're talking a garage sale, you're talking about one or, a household, either a person or a household of people that have to come to some consensus that, yeah, we can get rid of that.
Mhm.
And yeah, $5 sounds right. And come time for sale, yeah, $3 is fine. Everyone agrees there's not sentimental value, which is still a value. When you're talking about something like federal land, we're not all having a conversation. Not everybody gets a voice in whether, yeah, we can get rid of that. No, there's no sentimental value. Yeah, that's a good price. And yeah, I'm willing to haggle down to this. It's a very, it's a tough topic.
Well, but I'd also equate it to, for families that are deep in debt and they have a lot of stuff sitting in their house of going, and I've heard this too, where maybe one half of a couple is like, no, I don't want to sell that. The other couple is going, no, we really need to get out of debt. And a lot of times it's just,
Bader's like, please, we cannot keep all of the Chuck Norris memorabilia. We've got to. We're skipping meals to get by. Don't you see? You can sell some of these denim vests.
Did you know that there's actually a Chuck Norris water? He has his
No,
own
no.
water company. You can buy it just north of Houston, near Navasota, Texas. But
I hope it's called Punch Water or something like that.
oh no, it's
Or like Chuck Norris.
oh, it
Got
right.
electrolytes.
Let's see what it's called. It's even better. It's called Sea-Force.
Hell yeah. The
Um,
water that gives you a mustache.
um, but I think it's part of that thing. And one of the things here in this article, it says, selling a substantial portion of federal land could raise hundreds of billions of dollars, alleviate some fiscal strain. And that's where my thing is like, it's going to get things off the books that we're not currently using that land for, and improve economic efficiency by enabling Americans to purchase land and develop it however they see fit. And that's the thing where it starts to give back to the economy. Yeah, I think it's one of those things. Like, there's a lot of things, the federal, the state, and the local, where our elected officials are making decisions, and not every single citizen gets to weigh in on it. We are putting our trust in them to make the best decision for citizens, however you want to see that. But I also like this idea. The other thing is, too, to your thing of like, okay, well, I mean, if they're going to sell off this land, even though you and I are not in a position to buy millions of dollars worth of acreage, of the people that are, is it going to, say, a public auction, so that the people that can purchase it, that do hit a certain criteria to purchase federal land? And part of me is going, man, if they're going to purchase it, I'd also like to see like a business plan of what you're going to do with it, because we don't want you just sitting on it. And hopefully there's something in there that if you purchase the land, you are committing to owning it for X number of years. Like, you can't just purchase it and then turn around and resell it.
Yeah. Or
I
sit
don't
on it
know.
and wait for the value to increase before you just resell it or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and like with the deal in the 42 acres in Nevada, I don't know what the fine print said and all that stuff, because in my research, I could find some deeds of sale, but for property that was sold years ago, not what was sold recently. But I thought it was an interesting concept. And also, school districts auction stuff off all the time.
Yeah.
So you can go, you can look up, school district auction, and they're selling things. It's usually like lockers or,
Old desks and whiteboards.
yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what I actually want from one of those auctions is I want one of those old projectors.
Overhead projector.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's murals that I want to put on my walls in my home office, and I need one of them. And I'm like, I only need it to work for like 6 hours.
Well, man, I mean, I think that's a cool idea. So you're thinking like you'd get the thing and you'd put like the transparent sheet on there,
Yeah.
and that will project on the wall, and you could change it as you'd like.
Yeah,
Which is a really cool idea.
I know.
But man, I think you might be at risk of burning your house down if you
There's
kept one of those suckers on for 6 hours.
Yeah, so like there's auctions like that.
I'm sorry, but I love that you brought up an overhead projector, because in a previous episode we talked about obsolete things. That's one of them.
Yeah,
And like that was kind of like, I don't know about you, but I think people, our cohorts, people of our certain age,
those born in the 1900s.
a pretty indelible part of your growing up and going to school was that overhead projector and your teacher scribbling on a transparent sheet and having to get the spray bottle to spray it and wipe it clean to do the next thing.
Yeah.
And then you'd have that one teacher that forgot to put down the transparent sheet and they wrote on the actual glass,
Yep.
and you hear them swear, and there's very, very salacious and good.
that thing would get freaking hot.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
it's a
I
safety
accidentally put
hazard.
my arm on one and got burned. I didn't realize I could have made bank. I could have made, what'd you say, a whole district got $800,000? I could have made like $20 by suing my school.
You could have gotten an extra milk carton.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's going to make bank by suing a school district, unfortunately. But you could totally sue the projector manufacturer.
That's where the juice is, and that's where the opportunity is. You want to try to sue the federal government? Good luck, buddy. But once this land gets bought by some private equity bullshit, sue them.
Yes.
Feel free.
But going back to that of like, whenever you have a public entity that is going to sell their assets, they do have to go to public auction. They have to do that type of thing to get it off the books, to follow their requirements of getting assets off their ledger. So anyway, I thought this was an interesting concept of, hey, if the federal government does start to reduce the land that they own, where, like, is there going to be like, I almost like, is it a land dash, like, back in Oklahoma, and like you got to run and claim your spot? Now it's going to be like, it's the digital version of it. How do we know what that looks like?
No, I think honestly that kind of gives me more on the side of being pro this. If they did go, okay, these things are for sale and it totally is a land grab situation. We need your most out of shape executive, and they will be the one that has to get the flag and run and plant it. And like, we haven't cleaned it up at all. It's full of prairie dog holes and cow pies. Go. And we televise it. You stream it. You put it on Amazon.
This is such
I
a
would
like,
watch that just for the injuries.
this is such a Squid Games
Yes.
situation. But it's also a call to arms of like, hey, if you're a company and like, hey, I'm interested in buying this land and I have to go get funding for it, this is your call to start that paperwork, start that legwork to get investments, to get that funding, to possibly purchase acreage from the federal government somewhere in the future.
I'm glad that you're sharing that here on the podcast, famously listened to by hedge fund managers. That's great.
Well, I mean, I feel like our podcast is listened to by federal government workers. So,
Or at least they're bots. Yeah.
I mean, I keep telling the kids to ask their parents what stuff means. I do not think any children are listening to this podcast either, but who's listening to our podcast? Mom, start thinking about.
Mom, we want land in Montana.
Oh yeah, Mom, make that happen. Actually, yeah, we're talking to the right parent, because Mom will then tell Dad to go do it.
Yes. Dad's just got to clear out some of the Chuck Norris memorabilia first.
Anyway, I thought this was an interesting idea, interesting concept. Nevada, I don't know if that was already planned to happen in Nevada, or if it was their first like, hey, what's going to happen if we try to do this? But the federal government has more than the state of Texas available to possibly sell, and if they sell it, if you're in the spot to purchase it, you could get something that you could possibly develop later down the road.
Interesting metaphor choice. That's something I really would. I don't know. I'm more like kind of going, hey, where does the metaphor hold up, and where does it fall apart, and what are the implications of the metaphor? It's just interesting.
Well, currently Mom and Dad are fighting in government, so it's just like a regular garage sale.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's this week's episode.
Cool. Thank you, Julie. Take care.
Bye.